Now that the centrists have rallied around Joe Biden, uh, I want to see where the markets are at. Now, what's interesting is, again, we had Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar that dropped out right after South Carolina. And they have rallied and endorsed Joe Biden. And not only that, but you had our old friend Beto O'Rourke, or as Kyle Kalinske likes to call him, Beto my stork, that has also endorsed Joe Biden. Sad. That's actually really, I mean, it's disappointing because back when Beto O'Rourke was actually a progressive or acting like a progressive, he was doing really well against Ted Cruz. But O'Rourke, and here's the thing, when he dropped out, you think, okay, maybe this guy could have a redemption arc later on and go back to supporting the actual policies that, had him do well in the polls against Ted Cruz in the first place in Texas. Instead, he ran a vanity campaign for president, dropped out, stood on a bunch of tables after skateboarding around for a while and saying ridiculous things. And now he's endorsing Joe Biden. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. But he's not the only one that's a problem here. You've got Elizabeth Warren that's still in too. And Elizabeth Warren, unfortunately, right now is staying in to hurt Bernie Sanders. Since all of that has happened, health insurance stocks have risen to new heights, showing, of course, that there is a lot of enthusiasm among Wall Street and insurance companies that they will be successful at stopping Bernie Sanders in Medicare for All. So now on Monday, Humana, United Health Group, Anthem, and Molina Healthcare have advanced at least 1.7% each, spurring the 7-member index of S&P managed care companies towards its best day in almost a month. So that's a part of the stock market that has rallied. But I'm sure that's just a coincidence, right? It has nothing to do with these companies breathing a massive sigh of relief now that Bernie Sanders might not actually win the nomination or not win enough delegates to come in with the convention with the majority and get the nomination stolen from him and given to Joe Biden. Oh, wait, actually, that's exactly what's going on. Now, the intra-day rally came as investors leaned into bets that Klobuchar's backers will side with Biden and not Bernie Sanders. Now, look, voters are strange, right? Everybody's out here trying to understand what exactly voters are going to do. Surprisingly, backers of Pete Buttigieg, 21%, a majority of Buttigieg backers, actually decided that their second was Bernie Sanders. Now, look, Klobuchar is the only actual moderate in the race. But we don't know. But even some Klobuchar backers, and I don't have polling on this, but I'm assuming even some Klobuchar backers might consider Bernie Sanders. Again, weird, right? You just never know who people's second choice is going to be. But nonetheless, a lot of people on Wall Street thought, oh no, they're all going to go to Biden. Yeah, maybe some will go to Bloomberg. I don't know. But basically, that got a lot of notice from progressive activists who were like, wait a minute, you've got all these insurance stocks that are starting to rise. Now, these observers suggest that the surge may be from an expectation that a Biden victory could stop Bernie Sanders in his progressive movement, which has made universal Medicare for all healthcare a centerpiece of the race. People, according to progressive activist Christopher Jackson, are gleefully gambling on the health insurance CEOs will be able to continue to profit off killing our friends and family. Now remember, they're right. If you think that's hyperbole, no, it's not. 68,000 people a year die because they can't afford health insurance in this country. Biden's plan is not universal health care. It's a public option. Now, it would still allow health insurance companies to operate. In fact, his plan says, let's expand the ACA a little bit give you some subsidies, and then do a public option, maybe. Very, very little change. And they'll probably give up on the public option. Okay. So now, according to an analyst, Biden's plan would still lead to the deaths of 125,000 people over the first 10 years by leaving millions of Americans still uninsured. Now, the insurance companies love this because Biden's plan, again, doesn't really fundamentally change everything, as he promised his donors, and they still get subsidies, right? And leaves an estimated 3% of the population uninsured. These are people that are the poorest Americans in the country, and often the sickest people in the country. So these health insurance companies are like, no, we're not interested in those people, because then we actually have to pay out instead of just collecting premiums until they get sick. No, we're not interested. Either those people get left without insurance, or they go to our public option system, which is, again, going to be loaded with sick people. And then that's going to make it very inefficient, very costly. And then you're going to have Republicans like Mitch McConnell going, look at how expensive that is. What a waste. Government doesn't work. We should get rid of it. Free markets. Look, that's the problem with every plan that leads or that leaves for-profit health insurance in the mix. And I'm sorry, but every other plan other than Bernie Sanders allows those health insurance companies to exist, from which, by the way, our government is corrupt. I know Chris Matthews hates it when people say that, but he was fired anyway, so who cares what he thinks? No, our system is corrupt, and you're going to have these health insurance lobbyists paying off politicians to go and try to kill the public option. I mean, it's so incredibly obvious, or at least it should be, but not to some people. Now, what's funny, too, is that the ACA is now going back to the Supreme Court, which means we might not even have, if they're successful in dismantling the ACA, we're not going to have anything to build off of. So, or Joe Biden's not going to have anything to build off of. So much for, oh no, we can't just start over with a Medicare for all system, which, by the way, it wouldn't be, because you're expanding Medicare to everyone. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Now, that stock spike, by the way, also coming at the time, reporting on Klobuchar's endorsement was in the works, provided voters with, quote, and this is according to Marshall Steinbaum, who's an economist, everything you need to know about the Democratic primary. Basically, the stocks go up because the Democrats, who are supposed to be this left-wing party, but they're not, these stocks rise because all these centrist establishment, basically Republican candidates or Republican lights, come together and say, we are going to oppose the change candidate. And by the way, Elizabeth Warren, you are also opposing the change candidate because you are basically in there to block Bernie Sanders. You are splitting the progressive vote. You have no path to the nomination. You have no path to victory. And all you're doing is taking delegates which could go to Bernie Sanders. I mean, it's ridiculous. Cartoonist Eli Valley also talked about this and said that the stock surge is a reminder of what's at stake and which candidate brings euphoria to the U.S. healthcare murder cartel. He's right. Jordan Uhl on Twitter also noted that the contrast between Bernie and Biden and the broader progressive and establishment wings of the party could not be clearer. And it's true. And look, if you support the for-profit insurance industry, you're supporting a system where tens of thousands of your fellow Americans die every year because they can't afford health care or go bankrupt from medical debt. Which, by the way, and nowhere else in the world does medical debt actually exist. Only here in America. Only here in America, right? You're supporting a system which makes it easier for sicknesses to go around, pandemics, because people will refuse to see a doctor over the healthcare costs. A public option doesn't fix these issues. Only Medicare for all, a truly universal system, can do that. And there's only one person out there who we can trust to actually get that done. And that's Senator Bernie Sanders. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.